right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, it's time for a Gerard Butler action movie. We haven't done one of these yet, and we talk about that in the episode. But we are talking about Plane, the new one from Gerard Butler, where he's on a plane and it crashes, and he has to save everyone on the plane. And he has to get back to the plane, and he has to get the plane to fly back to safety. It's exactly what you're expecting it to be, but it's a good time. And joining me to talk about it is Chad Clinton Freeman, friend of the show. He's back. One of these days, we're going to release that Black Adam episode that we recorded. It's on the Patreon, by the way, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where we post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and My Music Career, and apparently the Black Adam episode, which I have no idea when to schedule for the main Piecing It Together feed, but it'll come out one day. But regardless, it's always fun to have Chad on the show. So we've got the Plane episode coming up here in a second. Before we get to the conversation, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And if you like the show, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify, wherever there's a 5-star button. We'd appreciate it if you drop those ratings. You could also follow us on social media at PiecingPod and join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. So, with that said, let's talk about Plane. Chad Clinton Freeman's with us. We're going to talk about Plane. Chad, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. I'm excited to be here. Gerard Butler movie. Yes.
Yeah. I like Chad always names himself in these the recording sessions that we do, and he's Gerard Butler's Butler.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming has to do with the Plane title of this movie, Plane, that we're talking about here. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it before we did this. Not counting Cop Shop, which is more of a Carnahan movie than it is a Butler movie.
Right.
I feel like this is the first, just straight up, I'm going to see a Butler movie that we've done on the podcast. Like in 300, which you and I did as a Missing Pieces. That also, that's its own thing too. But Gerard Butler's kind of become a thing of his own lately, like as an action star, like a Liam Neeson, like a Bruce Willis or somebody. Like he is his own action star with movies that you totally can identify just from his face and his name.
Right.
And you don't always necessarily even know what his character's name is. It's just like, oh, I'm just getting a straightforward action movie. And this feels like it fits right in.
Right. It's, a Gerard Butler movie with him playing that Gerard Butler character. Doesn't matter.
Yes.
Throw him in a scenario. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Because 300, of course, is Zack Snyder movie, and
Yes.
like you said with the Cop Shop. But yeah, no, he's definitely came into his own as far as being a action star, and then not only that, for me, he's a draw no matter what he's in. I mean, he is just like churning out these for me fun movies. We had Greenland just a couple of years ago. I mean,
Sure.
last year, Last Seen Alive was not as good as I was hoping for. But other than that, he's had pretty well a good string of hits. I like the Angel movies. They seem to
Sure.
get better with each one. I believe we should be having another one of those coming. But you gave a couple of good comparisons. But for him, he's more of a Nick Cage or a Tom Cruise for me. He's that big of a draw. He is a movie star.
Yes. Well, he certainly has charisma. I'll give him
Yes.
that. And and I do generally like his movies. I don't think I've loved any of them, like the Has Fallen movies or any of that. Like I haven't loved any of them, but they're all like solid, fun action movies. And this one's no different. Like I had a good time with it, even if I didn't love it. And there's plenty of fun moments. And like I said on Letterboxd, like people in the audience cheered during, the big win at the end, and like that's enough for me. That
Yeah.
it's a good enough movie there. So, we'll get into more about what works and doesn't here, but let's start jumping into puzzle pieces. What do you have for your first piece?
My first piece, I'm gonna go with it's actually not a movie. This is kind of a fun piece.
Mm.
Just something as I was watching that I was reminded of that I hadn't thought of in a while. It was actually, and I tried to look up online to find more specifics on this, but back when I was a kid, this was early 80s. I was probably around 8 or 7. At the fair, there was this ride that was like, as far as I remember, one of the first flight simulators. It was this ride. It looked like a space shuttle, and lots of people could get on board. Of course, I was like I said, like 7 years old. So who knows? It may have been just 14 people like on this movie. Uh,
Yeah.
but basically, it was a ride to where there was like a movie projecting at the front. It was like on an airplane, and you take off, everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden something happens. And this was my first memory of learning the phrase Mayday, because basically this is not a happy flight simulator ride. It ends
Oh,
with a
sure.
crash landing. And To me as a kid, it was just like so much fun. And like I said, it was the first. I remember asking my dad, "What does Mayday mean exactly?" And I remember in this movie, Gerard Butler, of course, does the Mayday during the big scene with the storm and the everything on the engine. Uh, the plane all shuts down. They're going to go down. Mayday, mayday, mayday. It just brought back those memories of that. So I was trying to find out exactly what this ride was called specifically. Everything
Yeah.
focuses on the gravitron, which it was not the gravitron. It was before that, which that came out about 1983. So that's where I came up with that. It must have been like 81, 82. I just don't know what it was called, but it was a flight simulator that looked like the space shuttle. So
Man, that sounds
it
awesome.
was.
Like that sounds great. Like I just went to Universal last year, and like I don't like those motion simulator rides. Like those are some of my favorite ones, and that just being in a plane crash like that, I mean, that would certainly stay with you for the ride home too. Like
Ye-
that's something you're not going to forget,
well, and
very
all I can figure
quickly.
is that maybe they did away with that all because a lot of the flight simulators since then, they don't have that same impact that this one did. Again, this one was like you were actually in a plane, and and it moved like you were actually crashing, and the visuals were there and everything. And I think that's kind of, they moved away from that or distanced themselves from that. Maybe NASA sued them. I don't know. But
I like that there's a small chance here that this is just like a nightmare you had, and like this didn't actually happen, and we're using one of
I
Chad's dreams for a
I
puzzle
am
piece.
100% sure that this did happen. I
Okay.
I should have verified with my brother, but I didn't. But yeah, no. This was one of early memories of going to the state fair in Texas. So this would have been the state fair in Texas in Beaumont, and I guarantee you, this was an actual ride at one point.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I'm gonna go with a couple of real movies that
Oh,
actually
okay,
happened.
okay. Let's
Yeah,
go back to
for
movies.
my first, yeah, let's do that for my first puzzle piece. Both with plane crashes and pilots saving us from plane crashes. Sully and Flight with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington.
Yes.
Two different versions of that, both good in their own ways, and just these pilots who are in a way they're like heroes, like they're saving a this big giant plane full of people. Although, like you already pointed out, it is funny that this plane has like 14 people on board, which
Right.
I don't remember the last time I've been on a plane that wasn't completely full, but
Right.
that's another story. But yeah, these guys they're just like fully in control, and they know it's always funny when you're watching these kinds of movies, these like plane based movies. There's like 1,000 buttons, and they know exactly what to push
Right,
and what to pull
right.
and what to turn in order to save the day, even when the computers are all down and everything. So shout out to those guys, and shout out to those two movies because they're both really good.
So I had never seen either one of those actually.
Okay.
And I love Denzel, so actually I was gonna go to bed early last night. I ended up watching Flight last night. So
Nice.
it was a movie that I had started watching at one point but never did finish. But yeah, no, the that movie, it's essentially 2 movie a lot of times these movies with these flights are 2 movies where you've got the event that happened, and then you've got, like, the investigation or
Yeah,
the changing of that character because of that incident. And,
sure.
yeah, no, Flight, is, very intense with him inverting the plane and everything, and, of
Hmm.
course, he's drunk and high on cocaine and doing
Yeah,
and,
sure.
I don't know if, like you said, shout out to these, guys that actually, fly these planes and know what buttons to push. But in watching these movies, I don't know if this makes me want to fly more or fly less, especially
Yeah.
especially if he has to be drunk and high in order to pull off the landing. But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, the moment in plane where we have this failure and the plane goes down, there is a pretty exciting event there, but it does feel like that it's kind of a simulation, which is why it really brought to mind my first piece. Whereas Flight, it does honestly seem more real, as far as the special effects and everything. Um, but definitely a great movie, even though Flight turns kind of into a um,
It's like courtroom drama and all that
yeah,
stuff. Like,
and
yeah.
I couldn't figure out if it was an anti-alcohol movie or if it was a pro-cocaine movie, or maybe both.
Mm, maybe
But
a little of
yeah,
both.
no, and
Yeah.
John Goodman's great in there with the 2 scenes that he pops up in as the,
Oh,
drug
yeah.
dealer. But,
Nice. Yeah. I actually forgot about that. That's great. Yeah. He is great.
yeah. No, but, those 2 movies, though, one's called Flight, one's called Sully, this one's called Plane. There's a theme there
Hmm.
with badly named movies, about airplanes and,
Yes.
people that, crash land them.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. Yeah. Very simplistic naming structure for any movie about planes.
Right.
I don't know why that is exactly, but I guess they figure planes are enough of a spectacle. We
Right.
don't need big names. So yeah.
One review I did see about Plane said, "Man, Sully, he didn't know what he was doing. He just, dumped them into the water. This guy, he finds an island for them to land on." And I thought that was great. But
Yeah, this guy knows what he's. This guy's a real hero.
so I'll go to another plainly named movie about
Mm,
airplanes, and that's the movie Airport 1975, which I actually
nice.
also watched last night. That's a movie, funnily that I had never seen either. It's Charlton Heston, it's Karen Allen, Linda Blair, great cast, and it's about an airplane. I don't know why it's called Airport. Where
Yeah, I
where
know.
this disaster happens and it knocks out the pilots, and then a flight attendant has to take over flying the plane. Her boyfriend is a pilot, Charlton Heston, and so Karen Allen has to uh, basically take instruction from him from afar, and then he ends up basically there's a hole torn into the side of the airplane. He ends up getting like helicoptered into that hole so he can land the plane, which is kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. Uh,
So
but at the
ridiculous.
same time, fantastic movie. Very, very much one of those movies though where the entire film is actually in the plane, except for the interactions, between her on the plane and those on the ground, and then a little bit of them getting together the rescue plan of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Pretty great as far as a airplane disaster, but this one is like a packed airplane full of everyone, including nuns and a lady that
Yeah.
snuck in her dog, and Linda Blair's character needs like a kidney transplant, and she had to be brought in by um, ambulance, and there's just all of these little stories, including one guy who's like a background actor, and they're showing American Graffiti, and evidently he was a background actor in this movie, but the film breaks. But it gets more into some of the characters than Plane does. uh, but I thought it was funny that these people, they're like seem to be a lot more appreciative when somebody does something right than the people were in Plane. And then also the people in Plane, very, very
Suck.
entitled.
They all suck. Every
Yeah.
last one of them.
No, it's a good
Yeah.
representation, though, I think, of people in general these days. Very entitled
Yeah.
and not appreciative at all. Uh, You know,
Mhm.
what? You landed us on an island? How dare you? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you got your life saved? I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a choice for them to make all of the people on the plane so unappreciative and such kind of dicks, like for the most part. But I guess that kind of leads into where things head, where they all get kidnapped. And so, you know what? For my next puzzle piece, I'm going to go Rambo: First Blood Part Two. Once everybody is captured by the cartoonishly evil foreign bad
Right,
guys,
right.
you know, John Plain has to go into the camp and break them all out. And it kind of like becomes a totally different kind of movie. You said that earlier about like with Flight, how it kind of becomes a different kind of movie. Now it becomes everybody with machine guns
Right,
and fighting
right.
fighting against the drug lords or whatever on the island. And it's really funny too because like once they go into the camp to try to save all of the passengers, like it's the easiest breakout sequence maybe ever filmed. Like it's all of like 2 minutes, and they've gotten the entire group out. And they just have to wait for a silent moment so they could all sneak away. But it's really funny how that whole scene kind of plays out so quickly, and they spend so much more time on everything else and all the shooting. But yeah, a lot of Rambo in there, I think. Once they get into the jungle.
Yeah, definitely. I very much did the same thing in watching this. It just reminded me of the 80s action movies. I specifically couldn't pinpoint which Rambo it was. I was just like,
Yeah,
it kind
a
of,
little of
kind
two, a little of
kind of,
three.
kind of, kind of Rambo-ish. Now, the thing that I did appreciate about it though was that as big a character Gerard Butler is playing, he he still is basically just the pilot. I mean, he does essentially get them broke out, but he's not necessarily the man with the gun. He's not um, like Rambo per se. He's not just
Mhm.
with a machine gun gunning people down, saving the day in that way. There is that great fight sequence. With he gets attacked. He's trying to use the phone, and ends up
Right, right.
destroying the phone by bashing the guy over the head with.
You
um,
sure?
that was all done like one take too, which I thought was really great. That fight
Yeah.
scene there. But I mean, other than that, it's more grounded than say a Rambo movie or my next puzzle piece, which is
Mm.
missing in action, Chuck Norris,
Okay.
which I'm not even sure. I think were at the same time. I think the Rambo and the Missing in Action, they kind of probably fed into each other. Of course, there were 3 of the Missing
Yeah.
Action movies. I actually rewatched these, because I had thought, of, these '80s, movies where there's this one guy who goes in to save the day, and, yeah, Missing in Action 1 and 3, are the ones that, really has the similarities with this guy going in by himself to save the people that are locked up, and then even in part 3 he actually flies a plane out of the situation. So
Okay.
yeah, in part 3 it's actually like a orphanage that he ends up saving, and gets them all on a plane and they get out of there. But yeah.
Saving orphanages is a thing that just doesn't happen in movies anymore. I feel like it used to happen all the time.
Y Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's the thing, is that maybe in plane, because there are only 14 people in the plane, maybe there was some kids being held hostage that he could have saved too and brought with him. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
what the not necessarily an orphanage, but, when you said that, I just thought of the Mad Max, which one is it? Is it Thunderdome when he saves the kids?
I
Is that the one?
I don't remember. I haven't seen
Um
the original Mad Max movies since, like, high school. I don't remember which is which.
I don't know. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, no, the same sort
Yeah.
of ending where he saves the all the kids on the plane or whatever, and they get out of there.
If I could, a quick tangent, before moving on to my next puzzle piece, but, I think when we were planning our Project M film that we never finished, about Amsterdam and Jewish Dave, I think my big idea for it that we, of course, never, like, got around to or anything was that Amsterdam and Jewish Dave were gonna have to save an orphanage. That was, like, my contribution to the idea of where the story should go. So, clearly, I had maybe Missing in Action on my mind at the time or something. I don't know. I don't know what made me think of that, but, anyway, moving on to another puzzle piece, I'm gonna go with Con Air, which I actually just talked about on our Project Wolf Hunting episode, so now I really have to, rewatch it for the first time in, like, 10 years, because, if I'm using it as a puzzle piece
Yeah.
twice in a week, but, obviously, in this, it turns out it's just one criminal, dangerous
Right,
criminal
right.
that is on board the flight, and, the trailers made it look like it was gonna be more than that, like there was gonna be criminals, plural or something, but, it's just one guy, and then he ends up being, like, basically the hero, so in a way, it's like an anti-puzzle piece to Con Air, but still, whenever you're flying a plane and there's dangerous criminals on board, doesn't end well.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the other thing that it is very interesting, is that there's only 14 people on the plane. One of them is a criminal.
Yeah.
Your numbers aren't that good, and they're definitely gonna be
No.
standing out, to the other passengers when, like, you're one of the, the other 14. Um
Yeah.
Yeah, Con Air, it's a movie I actually haven't seen since, I saw it at the theater.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy that movie. That is one that I need to rewatch as well. I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't even have that down on my, list here. But, ye
We should do me, you, and Ryan Darty. We should do a Breaking It Apart on Con Air. I feel like because that's a movie that's come up on this podcast a lot as a puzzle piece. I feel like that could be one worth doing.
Hey,
That could be
sounds
fun.
good to me.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that. A nice reunion for the 3 of
Right?
us. Yeah, that'll be fun. What do you have for your next piece?
I'm gonna go back to the airplane movies that kind of we were talking about. I'll throw 2 of these out here. These are more recent. One of them is the, AJ Devine, uh, Runway 34, which, that one actually came out last year on, Prime Video. Believe it was tagged as an Amazon original. That's one where, based on a true story, it is a, pilot that, he's a little bit questionable, kinda like Denzel's character, and,
Mhm.
what is he into in his personal life? but he's a great
Sure.
pilot, and he his plane gets diverted due to bad weather, but due to a mistake by somebody back at whoever was telling him what to do, he actually diverts to even worse weather, and so he has to land the plane basically with no visual whatsoever. And he
Mm.
somehow is able to do this. Of course, there's this big hearing and all of this stuff about his, intentions and his digging up his personal life and whatnot. So it's again, it's one of those like flight where it's kind of a courtroom drama with the emergency landing, kind of cutting back and
Yeah.
forth. The other one was the 7500 or 7500. Yeah,
7500. Yeah, I thought about that one too. I didn't put it on my list, but it came to
The
mind.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie, which was also based on a true story. I'm pretty sure about
Mhm.
terrorists, and he's like ends up landing the plane. Basically, he's like injured. Uh, I he lands the plane with, like, him guiding the terrorists, helping him, if I remember
Mhm.
correctly. That one was just a couple of years ago. Another, Amazon Prime movie.
Yeah.
That one, is just basically you're in the cockpit the whole movie. But,
Sure.
it still works pretty well because it's pretty, intense. I just find it interesting though, the different types of movies and similar but different movies that you can actually do in regards to that small little area of where
Yeah.
the pilots of planes actually sit. And that one though is a recommended, as well as the Runway 34. I think both of those are fantastic movies. Completely different than this because they're more drama, but they're also very intense. That moment though, where he does land the plane, and then also, well, lands the plane again later in the movie. There are
Yeah,
some
sure.
elements definitely that basically they fit together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had thought of 7500. That is a very intense, like, single location type movie. And of course, this like breaks out into multiple, we go out into the jungle and all that and the camp and everything. But yeah, just the intensity of the flight sequence. And so yeah, definitely that fits in there. And I hadn't even heard of Runway 34. I might have to check that one out.
AJ Devin, I think that's how you say his name. He is fantastic.
Hmm.
To me, he's kind of like the Indian Gerard Butler.
Okay.
Anything he does, I keep on the lookout for. He's great actor and also director. This, I believe, was his second movie to direct. His first movie, absolutely fantastic, is one I've been wanting to do an episode with you.
Oh yeah.
Chevy, I not
Oh
yeah,
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 yeah.
fantastic movie. But yeah, no, he's very much like I said, the Indian Gerard Butler is how I see him. Very just charismatic, and also I think he's about around the same age. I mean, people talk about movie stars like they've got to be young or something. I mean, Gerard Butler, he's 50. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I think
He seems about
51. I mean,
50-ish.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he's like he could pull off action star. I mean, I think in the 80s, people didn't talk about things like that because like Chuck
Yeah.
Norris. I mean, like I'm watching that and I'm like, how old is Chuck Norris in this? Is he like already like in his 60s? I mean, he's one of those that kind of always looked old, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, everybody looked old in '80s movies, so, that's just kind of a thing, but, yeah, no, Butler's got a good decade or 2 left of, action movies, I'm sure. But, speaking of older action
Yeah,
movie
yeah, I'm
stars,
glad you took that.
yeah, I already compared him to Liam Neeson once. I'm gonna go with The Grey for my next puzzle piece. You could go with a lot of different Liam Neeson movies, but that one specifically, he's crashing in the wilderness and needs to survive. So it seems like the most accurate comparison to make, even though it becomes survival against the wilderness itself and not against a bunch of warlords, which is a little different. But still, you could go with a lot of different Liam Neeson, and it does feel like he's, I don't want to say taking a Liam Neeson trajectory, because Gerard Butler never really got to be like the big dramatic actor who then switched into action, but like we're sitting here talking about these like older action stars, which isn't something you see every day nowadays. It was more so back in the day. They're both kind of filling that spot right now.
Yeah, like Charlton Heston, which I brought up earlier. He's somebody that you look at his movies, which I recently rewatched Omega Man. He's another one. He looked like he was like in his 60s, probably when he was 20. So I can never tell
Yeah.
his age, like how old he is in what movie. But I thought you were going somewhere else with that whole
Oh.
aged action star, but yeah, I guess
Mm.
maybe I'll bring it up for my next piece. But
Yeah.
I
I'm
I
curious now.
I
Which one you thought I was gonna go with?
okay, we're talking about Gerard Butler. We had just brought
Mm-hmm.
up Nicolas Cage, and
Mm-hmm.
there's somebody else who, when you say movie star, especially this past year,
Uh-uh. You're taking this in the wrong direction, Chad.
Tom
This
Cruise.
man this man
Tom
does not
Cruise.
age. He does not age. I don't know what you're talking about. He still looks
Not
like he's
not not
35.
not only Top Gun Maverick, which to me, Top Gun Maverick takes a piece from that movie that he did where he was the drug smuggler, and I can't even think of the name of that movie. I saw it with you at the
But you
theater.
could think of every Tom Cruise movie name. The
No, well,
American Made, it's
yeah,
called.
that's the one, American Made.
Yeah.
Was not there a scene in there where they had a short runway and weren't gonna make it, and they had to dump some stuff out, and then they ended up making it at the
Yeah.
last, like, second?
That sounds
Yeah.
right. That sounds about right. That sounds like a Tom Cruise movie
Well,
to
like
me.
well, like, in Plane, they had the where, short runway, not gonna make it, and then they ended up, like, cutting a guy in half, and then, of course, when they land, it was really, like, not gonna stop and stops at the last second. Top
Mhm.
Gun, Maverick, they had the issue of the very close runway that they, of course, it's Tom Cruise, so he ends up pulling it off. Uh,
Of
when
course.
I watched Top Gun Maverick, I instantly thought of that American Made movie, even though I couldn't remember the name of it. I was
Yeah,
like, hey,
sure.
this is that other Tom Cruise movie. I thought at that point, American Made, I thought Tom Cruise was kind of segueing back into his drama, uh, because he's a great dramatic actor. He really is. And I thought
Yeah.
that was going to be his segue from action star to, okay, I'm getting old. And that movie to me looked like a PE teacher. I was like, man, he's really getting old. But he turned things around from there, became an even bigger action
Mm,
star. It's insane.
that's right. I think he's got the next two Mission Impossibles and that outer space movie he's supposedly making. After that, I think maybe he'll get back to his dramatic acting. We'll see.
But somebody like Tom Cruise being able to still make movies like Top Gun Maverick, yeah, I mean that just speaks to what we're saying about somebody like Gerard Butler being able to continue being, an action star. Maybe not in Disney or DC movies, but in movies that he's producing, which he produces everything that he's in, which is something
Yeah.
that is hilarious that they always put on the posters and the DVDs from the producers of Greenland, Den of Thieves, and Cop Shop, and I'm like, he produces everything he's in, so it's
From me. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
from,
With a speech bubble over his face on the
from
poster.
Gerard
From me.
Butler, starring Gerard Butler.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a he's an industry unto himself, right? Just like Tom Cruise. You're right. You're right. Uh,
He
yeah, no, of course, Maverick was on my list as well. By the
yeah.
way, especially with the year that movie has had over the
Right.
last year. So, Well, I will go with speaking of action stars, I'm going to get one more comparison in here. I feel like we've talked about like the Has Fallen movies and Greenland and like how we're just giving Gerard Butler fans more Gerard Butler. I felt in a way it's kind of like with the John Wick series, how we're giving Keanu Reeves fans exactly what they want, just more of Keanu Reeves being Keanu Reeves and just kicking ass. And those movies have just gotten progressively more and more ridiculous, and that's what I love about them. And I feel like that's kind of what we're getting here. We're getting Gerard Butler just kind of folding in on itself and just being the Gerard Butler show in a way that the John Wick movies feel like with Keanu Reeves. So that's my next puzzle piece.
Yeah, no, definitely. I see that. And of course, you'd bring up John Wick.
Yes, yes, I know
I
your favorite.
not not a fan of those movies at all. And I stopped watching them after two because yeah, no, it's not for
And
me.
three is my favorite one.
Yeah,
Three is my favorite
it's
one.
not for me. But yeah, no, I hadn't seen 3 and, don't plan to see 4. But what you're saying reminds me a lot about, what Nick Cage is doing. Funny bringing this back to Con Air. And that's really what I feel like Gerard Butler kind of is doing. He's going in that Nicolas Cage route, where eventually we're going to get a Gerard Butler movie where he's playing Gerard Butler. I feel like,
Oh,
like the Massive Weight movie of Nick Cage.
yeah.
So
That would actually be pretty fun if that happened, if we got a movie like that.
but yeah, no, I mean, I'm curious if they do a sequel to Plane. Of course, it might be a little silly to be Plane 2 and still have it to be about planes, but I don't know. Other
Yeah.
people have joked and said, we can go with bus next,
Yeah.
car. Um, I say
Yes. Yeah.
you could go with train, automobile. I mean, there's lots of
Yeah.
different
There you
options.
go. That's a nice little cinematic universe for you. I like it. So I've only got one more puzzle piece. What else do you got?
I got a handful here. I mean, a couple of these I can just go through, but going back to the entitled Americans that are not even thankful that they, were like saved. It remind me of movies where the stupid entitled Americans go somewhere that they shouldn't be going. Now, this movie doesn't do that quite because they didn't intend to go to this island, but the movie Green Inferno is an example of dumb, naive, entitled college kids going somewhere that they shouldn't have gone, and then getting into
Mm,
trouble with the people that live in the jungle and getting captured. Green Inferno is one of my favorite Eli Roth movies. I love when he does the entitled Americans going somewhere and basically getting butchered. And this one also involves a plane crash. So I was like, yes, this one's perfect. Also,
yeah.
the kind of racist, villain
It
archetypes.
Their
Um,
caricatures 100%. Yeah.
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 We see less of that in the nowadays than we did in the 80s. Of course, that was part of the thing with the Green Inferno is that it was wanting to be like these 70s and 80s cannibal movies. And so we don't really see those archetypes of the cannibal villains like them, these native people that just like live out there and who knows where. And we don't really see a lot of those terrorists like, you know, was in every movie in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, look at the other end of that is Top Gun Maverick with just not even naming the country and like you never even see any of the bad guys really.
Yeah, no, that one it kind of takes a page from like Star Wars almost. It's like, I mean, it could be another planet. I mean, seriously, it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why it rules. Yeah. But yeah, Green Inferno, interesting piece. Interesting piece
Well,
there. I
since
like
you
it.
said that, I just wanted to say that for me, my money, Plane, I do enjoy more than Top Gun: Maverick. So just wanted to put that out.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Of course you do.
Uh, real quick though, because a couple of other pieces came to mind. One is Snatched, the Schumer movie, which was one of those where it was like these, kind of racist terrorists kidnap the people, and then it's kind of a quasi action movie. I wanted more action. I think in Snatched, I wanted this plane. I wanted one of those fight scenes with like Amy Schumer and one of the terrorists, like Gerard
Yeah,
Butler
sure.
has. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely didn't do enough of either thing of
yeah.
being funny or of the
I
action. Like it needed a little more of both. But
I enjoy that movie. It's not what I expected or not what I wanted, but I do enjoy that. I do own that movie. Another one
nice.
I own that I enjoy, but I don't think anybody else on the planet does. That's The Mountain Between Us. About
Oh,
the
yeah.
the plane crash. Of course, with it, the flight gets canceled because of weather, and of course these two stupid Americans, they take it upon themselves to find somebody to fly a little plane to where they want to go because they have to get there, and of course
Mm,
that plane goes down, and then so it's
sure.
just them and a dog stuck in the middle of nowhere, and they go through this like you know whole ordeal of surviving. um, but I love that movie, and the end of that movie, I tear up watching it. I remember I saw it at the theater, and then when it came out on Blu-ray, I bought it, and I made Melanie watch it. And it gets to the end, and she's like, "Are you crying over this?" I'm like, I'm like, "This is so good," and I knew at that point nobody else thought what I did about that movie.
Nice. Hmm. Well, at least somebody likes it, right? That's that's what's important. Oh man, my last puzzle piece. You kicked it off with something that wasn't a movie, so I'm gonna end it with something that's not a movie. Uh, I'm gonna go with the idea of clapping for the pilot when you land as a puzzle piece here, because I think that's something that is the impetus of this movie. Of like, when you clap for the pilot when you land for no good reason. I mean, they're just flying the plane. That's what they're supposed to do. But it seems like people do it a lot of the time. What if there was really a reason for everybody to be clapping? So let's make a movie of that. And so that's my last puzzle piece here.
Well, they didn't clap the first time he landed it, so he had to.
No, because they're
He
assholes.
had to land it again in order for them to clap.
Yeah,
I mean, this
yeah,
guy.
that was pretty impressive. But can you do it
And
again?
and
That's
this
that's
time
what they were
shot.
thinking.
Okay, you're gonna be shot.
Yeah.
We want you to land it again.
Yeah, I think we've definitely established that the people on this flight
Yeah,
suck.
I'm
So
surprised they
I
weren't.
mean, you still have to save them,
Yeah,
but they still
I'm
suck.
su-
So
I'm surprised they weren't mad after the second landing. Just like, you ruined our flight. They gave him 1 star on the rating. They're just like
yeah, I'm
terrible.
sure. I'm sure they did, especially that one dude. But all right, I'm gonna read down the finished puzzle list here, and we'll get into some closing thoughts. But we talked about that motion simulator airplane crash ride that you dreamed up, and, and then we talked about Sully Flight, Airport 1975, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Missing in Action, Con Air, Runway 34, and 7500. The Gray, Top Gun Maverick and American Made, John Wick, Green Inferno, Snatched, The Mountain Between Us, and Clapping for the Pilot when you land a plane. Yeah, lots of airplanes, lots of pilots saving the day in a lot of these movies. That seems to be the thing that kind of ties it all together, I think.
Well, and a shout out to Jason Harris who said Defy Bloods. I would have thought of that when he
Yeah,
had said it, so I was like, I'm not gonna bring that up because that was already touched on.
yeah,
But yeah, no, that it fits in here too. A great movie.
yeah,
So anytime you can mention a great movie, might as well.
yeah, absolutely. Any other closing thoughts? Anything we didn't quite get to?
Um, the one thing was, the last movie we saw from this director was, Bloodfather, the Mel Gibson
Right,
movie,
right. Mel Gibson.
and
Yeah.
just the similarities with these 2 movies, I'm thinking he has some unresolved issues with his daughter, I think, because
Yeah.
and this one, it's like there when it doesn't even need to be. Like it's like
Mhm.
the he feels really bad, I guess, about not being there for his daughter, and it's just kind of more read between the lines. I mean, it's just kind of tacked on at the beginning and the end. Whereas Bloodfather,
Yeah.
it's this redemption of this dad for never being there, and I'm just like something going on there with the director and his daughter. I mean,
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I almost looked at it as like they forgot to give the pilot any kind of like backstory, and like at last minute they just went in and said, "Oh, let's throw in a father daughter side story that we're never gonna bother to resolve." Really, like like I feel like they just kind of threw that in there just to kind of pad it out a little bit.
well,
But
and they may be thinking ahead. Okay, they may be thinking ahead to sequel
oh,
because Mission in Action 3
oh, okay,
brings in a wife that he thought was dead. And that's why he
hmm
goes back. That's who he goes back to save. Not only does he have this wife, he has a kid he didn't know about who's 12 years old now. And so I'm like, maybe in a sequel, the wife is actually alive somewhere. Maybe terrorists have her, and he has to go back
uh,
with the daughter to save the wife or something. Or I don't know. I mean, maybe the daughter is just there for a tie-in to the sequel. But
I'm down for that. Let's make that movie. I'm excited. I am definitely excited. Chad, is there another movie you watched recently you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, tons of them, but, I'll keep it short. I'll go with a little movie, kinda getting a little bit of buzz, Skinamarink. Um, man,
Mm, yeah,
that's never n never have I had a movie watching experience in a theater like I did with that movie. It's like nothing you've seen before. Like, I mean, speaking of dreams, it's
yeah,
very much, like a dream that you wanna wake up from. I mean, it taps into nightmare from a child's perspective so well. Um, it,
yeah,
uh it's just dark and grainy and spooky, and there's no story, and, I think the best way to see it is in a theater so that there are no other distractions, and it just for me, it really pulled me in, and when that happens, that movie is just setting you up for some sort of, like, scare that is something really, really simple and silly that should not be scaring you, but, it's part of, giving yourself to the movie and getting inside that world, and just remembering what it's like to be a kid and being scared of, like, the dark and shadows and, flight simulator wait, no, wrong movie, but no, it's great. I actually saw these in a I went back to back, double feature because I was like,
nice.
I want to start the year off going to the theater and playing, and then I was like, wait, Skinamarink is playing. I'm like, I got to see that too. So I saw playing, I loved it. Then walked over, watched Skinamarink, and I loved it too. So I had a fantastic Friday the 13th at the theater.
Hell yeah, that's the way to kick off the year for sure. Well, Chad, as always, it's great having you here. Anything you want to plug before we close up
No,
here?
I mean, people can find me on Twitter. I mean, if they don't like Zack Snyder, they probably shouldn't follow me. But it's Polly Staffel. I'm on Letterboxd, all that stuff, and always in the Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces Facebook group, annoying people there
Yeah,
with Zack Snyder posts. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, Chad, as always, thanks for being here, and I look forward to next time.
all right.
I'm Josh Bell.
And I'm Jason Harris, and we co-host a podcast called Awesome Movie Year.
Each season, we take a look back at an awesome year for movies, which is every year.
We deep dive into these specific years, and we pick out why they were such great years for films. We go over the biggest hits, the biggest flops, the best pictures, some personal picks, some cult classics.
Years we've covered in past seasons include 1994, 2003, 1977, and 1984, and we've got all of film history to look forward to. So check us out at awesomemovieyear.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Plane. Thanks to Chad Clinton Freeman for joining me on that one, and thank you to all you for listening. If you're enjoying what we do here on Piecing It Together, make sure you're subscribed, of course, wherever it is that you're listening. And if there's a 5-star button, we'd really appreciate it if you drop those ratings. They help make sure the show gets seen and heard by more people. So 5 stars and a little 1 or 2 sentence review would be really nice and helpful. So thank you in advance. You could also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. And don't forget about that Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where you can find bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and my music career. And you can find the last episode I recorded with Chad on Black Adam, which will... I don't know. I guess I'm saving it for a rainy day at this point since the film's out on streaming and Blu-ray and all that stuff, and I just never found a spot to put it, but we'll put it out at some point. So let's close this out with a piece of music, as we always do, and a plane crash movie. It seems like a good time to play Free Fall from my album Head Like Fire. This will be a good fit. So yeah, this is a song called Free Fall. It was actually the theme for the Bird Road podcast, which we don't really do anymore, but could come back at any time. We've had lots of hiatuses on that podcast, so who knows? You never know. But the album Head Like Fire is available on streaming, as well as my most recent album, More Content. So check out all my music. Hope you enjoy the track, and we'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
an All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.